My brother dropped my laptop after I refused him $12,000, so I cut him off quietly and he had no idea the devastating consequences waiting for him. I'm Kai, 29 male, and I just realized I've been running an unlicensed bank for my family for the past 6 years. Before anything, you need to understand the full picture because here's how it works. When you're the 178 with your stuff together in a family of financial disasters, you become the solution to every problem. Car breaks down, Kai will handle it. Rent's short, Kai has got you covered. Made stupid financial decisions for the 15th time this year? Well, Kai is responsible, so he'll clean up that mess too. I work as a freelance software developer building custom web applications for mid-sized companies. Good money when the contracts roll in. I've got a solid reputation, repeat clients, and enough stashed away that I can weather the slow months. I live in a decent 2-bedroom apartment, drive a paid-off Civic, and generally have my life in order, which apparently made me the designated piggy bank for everyone else. My older brother Brandon is 32 and has the financial literacy of a hyperactive raccoon. He works in sales at some tech startup that's always 6 months from either an IPO or total collapse. Every few months there's a new crisis. Commission check got delayed again. Maxed out another credit card on VIP service and Ubers. Crashed his leased BMW and needed to cover the deductible. Sports betting debt. That weird 2 months where he got really into day trading and lost $8,000. Always something. Always urgent. Always became my problem. Then there's mom and dad. Dad used to work as a supervisor at a manufacturing plant until he messed up his shoulder 3 years ago. Now he's on disability, spending his days watching YouTube conspiracy videos. Mom works part-time doing administrative stuff for a chiropractor, but somehow her paychecks evaporate before they even clear. They live in the same house they bought in 1998. Here's what nobody tells you about being the reliable sibling. Your family stops seeing you as a human being with needs and boundaries. It started small, though, like these things always do. Brandon needed help with a security deposit 6 years ago. Just co-sign the lease, bro. I'll handle the rent. Then it was mom and dad needing help refinancing the house. Just co-sign the loan, honey. We'd never put you in a bad spot. And so on. One small decision at a time. I'd built this whole financial life support system where I was hooked up to everyone's money problems. And here's the thing that really ticks me off. I did it willingly. I thought I was being a good son and brother. I thought this was what family meant. I thought eventually they'd get their stuff together, and maybe I'd be the one who needed help someday. Yeah, I was a freaking idiot. Brandon's car insurance was bundled with mine to save him $70 a month. I'd co-signed his apartment lease 2 years ago. His phone was on my plan. He was an authorized user on one of my credit cards for emergencies, which apparently included VIP service at clubs and $200 Uber rides home at 3 a.m. Mom and dad's situation was even worse. That mortgage refinance 3 years ago meant I was legally on the hook if they defaulted. Their internet, cable, and every streaming service known to man was bundled with mine. I'd set up automatic transfers, $400 a month into a shared checking account to help with utility shortfalls during dad's recovery period. None of them had ever asked how I was doing. None of them had ever wondered if this was stressing me out. Why would they? Then that Thursday happened, and everything imploded. I was neck-deep in code for a client's inventory management system when my phone lit up with Brandon's name. Yo, Kai, I need a massive favor. No hello, just straight into the ask. What's up? So, you know how I've been talking about taking that executive sales training program, the one through that consulting firm in Seattle? Yeah, you mentioned it. Registration deadline's today, and they've got this financing option, but I need $12,000 up front to lock in my spot in the next cohort. I stopped typing. Brandon, that's a lot of money. I know, but Kai, this is literally the breakthrough I need. This program's got a 90% placement rate into 6-figure sales roles. This could change my whole trajectory. He was talking faster now. I'll pay you back. Obviously, I'll even put it in writing. I just need someone to believe in me right now. I'd heard variations of this exact speech more times than I could count. I don't have $12,000 just sitting around, I said carefully. Dude, you could put it on your credit card. I'll make the minimum payments directly. You won't even have to think about it. Come on, I've never asked you for anything this big before. And there it was. He wanted me to take on debt so he could dodge the consequences of not having his life together. No, I said. I can't do this one. The silence stretched out for a solid 5 seconds. Are you freaking serious right now? His voice went cold and sharp. After all the times I've been there for mom and dad when you were too busy with your little computer projects, when exactly were you there for them? I don't keep dang receipts like you do, Kai. I just show up when family needs me. By borrowing money you never pay back. You know what? Screw you. I'll figure it out myself. Thanks for nothing, little brother. He hung up. I sat there staring at my phone, then went back to work, trying to focus on the code, but I kept thinking about that conversation. 3 hours later, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting company. When I checked the peephole, Brandon was standing there, and I could tell from his body language, this wasn't going to be a friendly chat. I opened the door and he pushed past me. We need to talk. He was already pacing around my living room. Bro, if this is about the money, it's bigger than that. He spun around to face me. His eyes were red, probably from drinking. Do you have any freaking clue how hard it's been for me? Watching you succeed while I'm stuck grinding it out in a garbage sales job, barely scraping by. That's not my fault, is it? His voice was rising. You act like you're so generous, always playing the hero, but you never actually help me succeed. You just keep me dependent on your handouts, so you can feel superior. Seriously, how is paying your bills keeping you dependent? Because you never teach me anything. You never show me how you built your business, how you manage your money. You just throw cash at my problems and act like that makes you brother of the year. You've never asked me to teach you anything, Brandon. You only call when you need money, because that's the only time you give a dang about me. We stood there in my living room. I can't lend you $12,000, I said quietly. Get over it. He looked around my apartment, taking inventory, the nice sectional, the 65-inch TV, the expensive espresso machine, and then his eyes landed on my dining table where my custom-built laptop sat open. That laptop represented 2 years of work. Not just money, though it was worth about $4,200, but 2 years of tweaking settings, custom development environments, client files. Everything I needed to run my business. Right, Brandon said, walking over to it. You can't afford it. Warning bells started going off. What are you doing? He picked up my laptop and started walking toward my balcony. Brandon, put it down. He slid the balcony door open, stepped outside, held my laptop out over the railing. You know what your problem is, Kai? His voice was eerily calm now. You think your money makes you better than everyone else. Put the freaking laptop down. Maybe you need to know what it feels like to lose something important. And then he just let go. I watched my laptop fall 5 stories down to the concrete parking lot below. It made this sickening crunch when it hit. I just froze, not processing what the heck had just happened. Then he brushed his hands together. There. Now we're even. Even for what? I snapped. You just threw my freaking laptop. What the heck is wrong with you? This is for all those years you made me feel like garbage for needing help. For every time you looked at me like I was a failure. He grabbed his jacket. Maybe next time you'll think twice before being such a selfish jerk. The door slammed. He left me standing there in silence, shaking from rage. I stood there trying to process what had just happened. My brother had just deliberately destroyed the most important tool I owned for work because I wouldn't take on debt for his sales training program. I went downstairs and collected what was left. The aluminum case had split open. The screen was shattered. The motherboard was bent at an angle that shouldn't have been physically possible. Hard drives completely toast. Back in my apartment, I sat on the couch with the twisted remains in my lap. I had 3 active projects with hard deadlines. Without my files, I was looking at breached contracts and potentially torched professional relationships that I'd spent years building. But underneath the panic was something else, something cold and focused. Brandon hadn't just broken my computer. He'd attacked my ability to earn a living, and he'd done it on purpose as punishment for having boundaries. I pulled out my phone and called Mom. Kai, honey, what's wrong? Your son just threw my laptop off my balcony. Pause. He what? I explained everything. When I finished, Mom was quiet for a long moment. Well, she finally said it's just a computer. You can buy another one, can't you? Just a computer? Mom, that laptop had all my work files. I have clients expecting deliverables this week. This isn't inconvenient, it's potentially devastating to my business. Don't be so dramatic, Kai. Brandon's going through a really tough time right now. He's stressed about his career, worried about money, and you refusing to help him probably just pushed him over the edge. You know how he gets when he's emotional. So, this is my fault. I'm not saying it's your fault, but maybe if you'd been more understanding. More understanding? Mom, I've been understanding for 6 years. When is it enough? Maybe it's time to admit you raised an a-hole. Kai, don't talk about your brother like that. Family helps family. And what am I when I'm asking for help? You're being dramatic. Brandon will calm down and you two can work this out. Don't make a scene over a computer. Right, I said. I won't make a scene. I hung up. Then I called my buddy Owen. We'd met in college, and now he was a lawyer who dealt with tech stuff and intellectual property. Kai, what's up? Hypothetically, if someone deliberately destroyed your work computer, what kind of legal options would you have? I explained. Jesus. Okay, not hypothetically at all then. That's destruction of property, likely criminal mischief in the second degree in Oregon since we're talking about a $4,200 laptop. You could file a police report, and the DA could pursue criminal charges. Civil side, you sue for damages, replacement value, lost income, the whole deal. Why'd he do it though? I refused to lend him 12 grand. Are you kidding me? Owen let out a low whistle. Okay, here's what you need to do. Document everything. Build a timeline and don't talk to him or your family about any of this without documenting it. You think I should actually press charges? Kai, he destroyed your ability to work. That's an attack on your livelihood. Plus, if you're tied to him financially in any way, you need to start protecting yourself legally. I spent that evening documenting everything. Then I started digging into exactly how tangled up I was with my family's finances. Friday morning, I called in sick with my clients and spent the day running a full audit of my financial life. What I found was worse than I'd thought. Brandon's car insurance bundled with mine wasn't just saving him money. He'd gotten 2 speeding tickets and a fender bender in the past year that I didn't know about. My rates had gone up because of his terrible driving record. That was an extra $840 a year I was paying because of his lead foot. The apartment lease I'd co-signed 2 years ago had a clause I'd never read carefully. If he broke the lease or got evicted, I was on the hook for the remaining rent plus penalties. Looking at his payment history, he'd been late 7 times in the past 18 months. The building management company had sent warning letters to my address as the co-signer that I'd never received. I called them and discovered Brandon had told them to email me instead, then gave them an email address he'd set up that just forwarded to his own inbox. He'd been intercepting warnings about his late payments for over a year. The credit card where he was an authorized user had a balance of $3,200, all purchases I'd never signed off on. I found charges for a weekend trip to Vegas, a new laptop for himself, the irony wasn't lost on me, VIP service at clubs, even what looked like a sports betting site. But the real eye-opener came when I logged into that shared checking account I'd set up for Mom and Dad's utilities. I'd been auto-transferring $400 a month to help cover shortfalls during Dad's recovery. I pulled up 18 months of transaction history and started sorting every withdrawal. Monthly utility bills averaged $240. Monthly withdrawals by Mom and Dad averaged $380. The extra $140 each month was going to restaurants, convenience stores, lottery tickets, and straight cash withdrawals at casinos. They'd been taking the money I sent for utilities and gambling with it, then occasionally calling me for emergency utility assistance when the actual bills came due. 18 months times $140. I'd bankrolled $2,520 in gambling and entertainment while they cried poverty. I sat back and really let that sink in. This was financial exploitation disguised as family loyalty. And when I'd finally said no to one request, my laptop went off a balcony. I opened a new document and started building a case file. Then I called Owen back. I need a consultation. I want to know exactly what my options are. We met that afternoon at his office downtown. I brought my laptop remains in a box and a flash drive with all my documentation. He spread everything out on his conference table and went through it. Okay, said after about 20 minutes. Here's your situation. The laptop destruction is criminal mischief in the second degree. Given that it was your primary work tool and premeditated, you've got a solid case. Civil side, you sue for the replacement value plus lost income from missed work. With the right documentation, you're looking at probably $15,000 to $20,000 total, and that's just the laptop. What about the rest of it? Owen pulled up the credit card statements. This is trickier. He's an authorized user, so technically he had permission to use the card. The credit card company probably won't treat it as fraud, but you can pursue him civilly for exceeding the scope of authorized use. You'll need to sue him to recover those funds. What about the co-signing stuff? The apartment lease? You're stuck until it expires unless he agrees to find a new co-signer, or the landlord agrees to let you off. But the email interception scheme is sketchy as heck. The mortgage with your parents is basically permanent unless they refinance or sell. But you can remove him from your insurance, close shared accounts, remove authorized users, and stop automatic transfers whenever you want. And if I do all that, what happens? Owen leaned back. He'll probably lose his mind. Your parents will definitely lose their minds. Will it protect me legally if he does something else? Start building a paper trail now. Document everything. And if he damages anything else, report it immediately. That evening, I sat in my apartment with my backup laptop and started putting in motion what I was calling Operation Financial Independence. First, I filed a police report about the laptop destruction. Next, I called my credit card company and reported Brandon's charges as exceeding the scope of his authorized use. The rep put an immediate hold on the card and started the process of removing him as an authorized user. They made it clear I was still on the hook for paying the balance since he was technically authorized at the time, but they'd close the card and issue me a new one. Then I called my insurance company and started the process of removing Brandon from my auto policy. The rep mentioned those speeding tickets and the accident I didn't know about. When I told her I wasn't aware of any of it, she went quiet. "Sir, those incidents increased your premium by about $70 a month, $840 annually. Once he's off your policy at the end of this billing cycle, your rate should drop back to your previous level." I contacted my phone carrier and moved Brandon's line to its own account. Gave him 2 weeks to set up payment before service would be suspended. I logged into every shared streaming account and changed the passwords, booting family members from all of them. Finally, I closed that shared checking account and transferred the remaining $340 to my personal account. Then I sent an email to everyone. Due to recent events, I'm restructuring my financial accounts and responsibilities. Effective immediately, I'll no longer be providing automatic monthly transfers, maintaining shared accounts, or bundling services. Each of you will need to set up your own accounts and payment methods. I've given you 14 days to make these arrangements before services are disconnected. I didn't mention the laptop, just clean, professional disconnection. I sent it at 6 a.m. on Saturday, then turned my phone off and went to the gym. I figured I had about 3 hours before the chaos started. I was right. When I turned my phone back on at noon, I had 50 text messages and 12 missed calls. At 6:40 that morning, Brandon had opened his banking app and watched his entire financial life implode in real time. Auto pay for rent failed, car insurance failed, phone bill failed, everything bouncing at once. His texts escalated from confused to angry to panicked over the span of about 30 minutes. "Kai, what the heck did you do? My rent bounced, you jerk. I'm going to get evicted because of you. Call me." I didn't call him. Instead, I screenshotted every message and added them to my documentation folder. Mom called around 10 a.m. "Kai, honey, there's something wrong with the checking account. My card isn't working and we have bills due. Can you fix it, please?" Then Dad's voicemail. "Son, I don't know what you think you're doing, but you need to call us back right now and explain yourself. This is family money, and you can't just make decisions like this without consulting us." I sent a response email. The shared checking account has been closed as part of my financial restructuring. The account was set up for temporary utility assistance during Dad's recovery period. Based on transaction history, the funds were not being used for their intended purpose. Going forward, any assistance I provide will be for specific documented needs only. Then I hit send. My phone started ringing immediately. I didn't answer. Let it go to voicemail. Brandon's voicemail was about what you'd expect. Lots of anger, lots of accusations, a few creative threats that I made sure to save. The gist was that I was a selfish jerk who'd ruined his life, and he was going to make me regret this. I added it to the documentation and sent a copy to Owen. Mom's second voicemail was more manipulative than angry. "Kai, I don't understand why you're doing this. We've always been there for you. We raised you. Your father is very upset. Brandon says you two had some kind of fight, but destroying the whole family over a disagreement isn't right." Dad's second voicemail cut straight to threats. "If you don't restore that account access by Monday, I'm reporting you to the police for financial abuse and theft. That's our money and you have no legal right to withhold it." I actually laughed at that one. I forwarded it to Owen too. His response, "LOL. Please let him file that report. I would love to watch." Sunday afternoon, Brandon showed up at my apartment again. I saw him through the peephole and just didn't answer. He pounded on the door for a solid 5 minutes, yelling about how I was ruining his life. I recorded audio of the whole thing on my phone. Eventually he left. I waited 10 minutes, then called the non-emergency police line and reported harassment. They sent an officer over to take a statement. When I explained the background, the officer suggested I consider filing for a restraining order if he kept showing up uninvited. That evening I got a call from an unknown number. "Kai, it was Dad. Don't hang up. We need to talk about this situation." "What situation?" "This tantrum you're throwing. Your son destroyed my laptop and you guys defended him. I'm protecting myself. That was an accident. You provoked him by refusing to help when he needed it. I don't owe him money. You don't owe us anything after we raised you, fed you, clothed you, paid for your college. I paid for my own college with loans and scholarships, and I've been paying you back for the rest for 6 years now. Also, don't try to guilt-trip me over the bare minimum. Listen, Kai, if you don't restore that checking account by tomorrow, you're dead to this family." He hung up. I sat there staring at my phone. Dead to the family because I wouldn't keep letting them rob me blind. And you know what? Good. Now let me behave like it. That night, I sent one more email. After considering recent conversations and threats, I've decided to make the following permanent changes. All shared financial accounts are closed. All bundled services are terminated. All automatic transfers are canceled. I will no longer be providing loans or financial assistance. Any further communication regarding money will be ignored. Any further harassment will be reported to police. I'm no longer participating in this dynamic. I CC'd Owen on it before sending. His response: "Proud of you, man. This is going to suck for a while, but you're doing the right thing." Monday morning, I sent the demand letter to Brandon via certified mail. Replacement value of the laptop, $4,200. Lost income from missed work, $3,800. Unauthorized credit card charges, $3,200. Total, $11,200. I attached documentation for everything. For the lost income, I included an email from my client Billy that read, "Kai, the delay has cost us the launch window. We're having to pay our marketing team for an additional 2 weeks of standby at $2,400. I also included an invoice from John showing a $1,400 penalty clause for late delivery that he'd enforced. 30 days to pay or I'd file in civil court. And Brandon didn't pay. Shocker. What he did do was post about me on social media. Some long rant about how I was a heartless guy who'd abandoned my family in their time of need. The post got engagement from people who didn't know the full story. I screenshotted it all, added it to my folder. Owen filed the civil suit on day 31. We sued Brandon for the full $11,200 plus court costs and legal fees. The process server caught him at work, which apparently caused a scene. 2 days after he got served, Brandon called me from yet another unknown number. "Kai, what the heck? You're actually suing me?" "Yeah, I'm suing you. It's your brother. This is going to ruin me. Do you understand that? I can't afford a lawyer. I can't afford to pay this." Too late. That was one mistake. One moment of being ticked off. You're going to destroy my life over one mistake? No, Brandon, you destroyed your own life. If you drop the lawsuit right now, I'll apologize. I'll pay for the laptop in installments. We can work something out. 30 days ago, I offered you that exact option. You ignored it. Now we're past negotiation. He hung up. 3 hours later, Mom called. "Kai, what is this about you suing your brother? He destroyed my property. I gave him 30 days to make it right. He didn't. So now it's going through the courts. That's not fair. We were trying to keep the peace by taking his side. We weren't taking sides. We wanted you to be the bigger person. I'm done being the bigger person. If you go through with this lawsuit, don't expect to be welcome at family functions anymore. Mom, the only time any of you call is when you need money. I'd take that as a win." She hung up on me. The initial case management conference was in late November. Brandon showed up without a lawyer, which was a bold strategy that definitely didn't work out. The judge reviewed my documentation and basically told Brandon he was in trouble. She looked at him like he was something scraped off a shoe. "I'm scheduling a full hearing for January. I strongly suggest you get a lawyer, Mr. Morrison, because based on what I'm seeing here, you're going to need representation." Brandon tried to catch me in the hallway after. "Kai, please, can we just talk about this? Talk to my lawyer. I can't afford a lawyer. I can barely afford rent. Not my problem. I'm your brother." "No, you're not. You're a leech." He just stood there, looking defeated as I walked away. The full hearing in January was even better than the initial conference. Brandon had scraped together money for a lawyer, but it didn't help much. My documentation was airtight. Photos of the destroyed laptop with timestamps, security camera footage from my building showing Brandon leaving my apartment, text messages showing him admitting to being at my place that evening, credit card statements, client emails documenting my financial losses. Brandon's lawyer tried to argue it was a family dispute that should be handled privately. The judge shut that down immediately. She ruled in my favor for the full $11,200 plus court costs $800 and my legal fees $2,400. Total judgment, $14,400. Brandon was ordered to pay $500 per month until the debt was cleared. Failure to pay would result in wage garnishment. As we were leaving the courthouse, Brandon's lawyer pulled Owen aside. I couldn't hear what they said, but Owen came back grinning. He wanted to know if you'd settle for less. I told him you'd accept the full judgment paid immediately with a 10% discount or take the monthly payments as ordered. No other negotiations. What did he say? He said Brandon doesn't have $14,000. I told him that was his problem. The first payment didn't come in 30 days. I filed for wage garnishment immediately. Brandon's paycheck started getting docked automatically. In Oregon, up to 25% of disposable earnings can be garnished, but the court order specified $500 monthly payments. Since his take-home was roughly $2,400 per month after taxes, the garnishment took about 21%. Apparently his boss wasn't thrilled about it. According to people we both knew, Brandon's job was already on thin ice due to poor performance, and having his wages garnished didn't exactly scream responsible employee. He got demoted too, which meant the $500 garnishment was now eating up a bigger percentage of his smaller paycheck, closer to that 25% maximum, which meant he couldn't afford his apartment anymore. Within weeks of the judgment and the demotion, Brandon had to move out of his apartment. He moved into Mom and Dad's house at age 32. I learned this from Mom's angry voicemail. I hope you're proud of yourself. Your brother lost his apartment because of your selfishness. He's living in our basement now, and we're struggling to feed an extra person on our budget. This is all your fault. I texted back, good. She didn't respond. Meanwhile, my credit card company wrapped up their process. They removed Brandon as an authorized user permanently, closed that card, and issued me a new one. As expected, they determined that since he was technically authorized at the time of the charges, I remained liable for the $3,200 balance. I paid it off to protect my credit score. But that was exactly why I'd included those charges in my civil suit. I'd recover the money through the judgment. They did flag his social security number in their system as a fraud risk, though. My auto insurance company came through on removing Brandon from my policy. My monthly premium dropped by $70, $840 a year in savings going forward. The apartment complex where I'd co-signed Brandon's lease contacted me after he moved out. Apparently he'd broken the lease early and left damage. As co-signer, they said I was liable for $2,800 in penalties and repairs. I sent them a copy of the judgment against Brandon and a letter from Owen explaining that while I was technically still on the lease as co-signer, pursuing me would be more expensive than it was worth. We had documentation that Brandon had fraudulently intercepted lease violation notices. Any attempt to collect from me would result in an immediate cross-claim against Brandon for indemnification. Plus, we'd countersue for damages related to the email fraud scheme. They went quiet for a few weeks. Then I saw the charges hit Brandon's credit report instead of mine. They'd made their choice. Life got quiet. My business recovered. The new laptop was better than the old one. And I'd learned my lesson about backups. I'd also started seeing a girl, Allison, a marketing director I'd met through a client. I spent the holidays alone for the first time ever. It was quiet and peaceful and honestly perfect. No emergency phone calls. No one asking for money disguised as Christmas presents. Just me doing whatever I wanted. Then February rolled around. The call came from a number I didn't recognize at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday. Usually I don't answer unknowns, but I was already awake making coffee and figured, what the heck? Kai. Mom's voice strained and weird. What's wrong? It's Brandon. He's been arrested. I didn't say anything for a moment. Okay? That's all you have to say. Your brother is in jail. What did he do? A pause. He got into an argument with his boss about the wage garnishment. Apparently he shoved him. The boss called the police and pressed charges for assault. I sipped my coffee and grinned. That was stupid of him. Kai, he needs bail money. It's $5,000. Sounds like he needs better impulse control. Are you going to help him or not? Nope. Kai. Mom, don't. Let him deal with the consequences. He's your brother. Nope. I'm good. She made this sound like a wounded animal. If you don't help him, he's going to lose his job. He'll have a criminal record. His life will be ruined. His life is already ruined. Mom, just be like Frozen. Let it go. Are you freaking kidding me right now? How can you be so cold? I know, right? Took me long enough. She hung up. 2 hours later, Dad called. Your mother tells me you refuse to help your brother. That's correct. I don't understand you anymore, Kai. When did you become so heartless? Around the time Brandon threw my laptop off my balcony and you told me not to make a scene about it. That was months ago. You got your money from the lawsuit. Isn't that enough? You are being bitter and vindictive. No, I'm just chilling. Your son is an a-hole and that is not my fault. So you're teaching him a lesson. I don't even have to. Son, this is about more than just Brandon. Your mother and I are struggling. We can't afford to support him anymore. We can't afford the extra groceries, the utilities he uses. We need help. And there it was, the real reason for the call. So you want money? We want our son to help us in a time of crisis. The time of crisis you created by enabling Brandon. Watch your tone with me. Or what? You'll disown me? Mom already said I'm dead to the family. Can't be disowned twice, Dad. Silence on the other end. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Smaller. Please, son. We're desperate. The mortgage is behind. The electric company sent a shut-off notice. We're drowning here, and Brandon moving in just made it worse. I thought about it. Then I got an idea. I'll tell you what, Dad. I'll give you money for the mortgage and electric. One time. On 3 conditions. Name them. 1. Brandon moves out immediately. He finds somewhere else to live, but he doesn't live with you anymore. 2. You and Mom attend financial counseling. I'll pay for it, but you have to actually go and follow their advice. 3. You admit that enabling Brandon all these years was wrong and that I was right to set boundaries. The silence stretched out. You want us to choose between you and Brandon? No. I want you to stop choosing him over yourselves. He's a 32-year-old man. He needs to face the real world. This is blackmail. This is boundaries. Dad, I'm willing to help you and Mom, but only if you're willing to actually change. Otherwise, you're just going to keep enabling Brandon until you lose your house. He hung up. I didn't expect to hear from them again. 3 days later, Mom called back. Okay, her voice was barely a whisper. We agree to your conditions. All 3 conditions? Yes. Brandon needs to figure out his own life. We can't keep doing this. She sounded exhausted. You were right. We enabled him. And now we're losing our house because we chose him over our own security. Where's he now? A friend posted his bail. He's staying with some guy from work. We told him he couldn't come back here and he accepted that. A bitter laugh. He didn't have a choice. We changed the locks. And the financial counseling? We have our first appointment next week. Your father fought me on it, but I told him it was this or lose the house. I pulled up my banking app. What's the total you need? Mortgage is $2,100 behind. Electric is $340. But Kai, you don't have to. It's for you and Dad. Because despite everything, I don't want you to lose your house. I transferred $2,500 to their account while we were on the phone. It's done. Use the extra $60 for groceries or whatever. She started crying. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sorry it took us so long to see what you were trying to tell us. We sat in silence for a moment. For what it's worth, she said quietly. You've become a good man, stronger than your father and I ever were. I learned from watching you guys what not to do. That counts for something. She laughed through her tears. I suppose it does. After we hung up, I sat on my balcony and looked out at the city. I thought about everything that had gone down over the past 6 months. It had been messy and painful and honestly kind of brutal. But I'd drawn real boundaries, and I'd enforced them even when it hurt, even when I was called heartless, even when I was dead to the family. Because here's what I learned. Family loyalty is supposed to run both ways. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is let them face the consequences of their own choices. Brandon was still out there somewhere, still making bad decisions and still blaming everyone else. That wasn't my problem anymore. Mom and Dad were figuring out how to live within their means, possibly for the first time in years. I'd help them when they needed it, but only if they were helping themselves too. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube, this video deserves to blow up.